Hi everyone, this is Andrea at Scamp Studios, and today I'm going to take you through a tutorial on how to draw something that tends to give everybody a little bit of trouble, and that's hands. So today we're going to talk, hands are interesting because they're so expressive and they convey so much in art and in life, and they give everybody, adults, kids, total fits when it's time to draw them. So I'm going to try to break down hands for everybody in a way that's hopefully a little bit simpler. So we're going to start with sort of a rounded rectangle or square shape. Think kind of like a bar of soap. So no corners. This is going to be the palm of your hand. Okay? Just like that. So now we're going to add 5 points, and these are going to be for the joints of where your fingers. So for your thumb, okay, I'm looking at my left hand. The nice thing about drawing hands is you always have a model. So for your thumb, where your thumb placement, you want to think not halfway, but about a third of the way up, and we're going to make a little dot right here. Okay? Now, for our fingers, we want to do 4 more. I'm drawing a little darker than maybe you want to, okay, because a lot of this is stuff we're going to erase. Alright? So just like that. Now, usually, your palm, okay, the ratio of your palm to your fingers, so the size of your palm to the size of your fingers is about the same, okay? So you want to make sure, what we're going to do, I'm going to measure the palm I made, okay? And I'm just making a little mark, so I want my fingers to end right about here. Before we do that, so before we draw the fingers, we're going to do 3 kind of curved lines. Again, I'm drawing maybe a bit darker than you want to, just because I want you to be able to see. So I'm just kind of arcing over. So 1, 2. Make sure you're going close to where that thumb point is, okay? And now the longest one reaches the top, that point that I measured out. Just like that. So, now what we're going to do, we're going to make some lines that we want to make sure connect at each point. Okay, so I want to draw my hand kind of spread out. So I'm going to kind of fan these a little bit. So 1, 2, 3. Touch, 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 touch. Okay. Probably should have made it a little longer. This is your middle finger. You want it to be the longest. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now your thumb only has the 2 digits, so we just want to go 1, and because it bends in like this, 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start forming the fingers. For the bottom part here, you want to think kind of almost like not exactly a rectangle, more like a traffic cone shape. Okay, maybe not that pointed at the top, but so, and when you see, I'm bringing it up, over, down. Okay. Now your thumb, you're going to make just a little bit wider. Okay. Now we'll continue. We'll do the others. See, I'm just coming up. And at the top, we just want to curve it. Okay, we will kind of refine this a little bit. Just like that. Okay. So they're not perfect, but that's what erasers are for. And for the thumb, we curve, and this side's a little flatter. Okay, so there's your basic hand shape, and then we can just clean it up a little bit. So we'll erase all of our inside lines here. If these don't erase perfectly, it's okay. You can leave them for the lines for the knuckles. So we'll just clean this up. We're going to get rid of these. Okay. So originally I wasn't going to add this particular hand position to this lesson. I was going to keep it a little simpler, but I thought I'd give you all another option. One, because we're going to be able to use that same method where we do the oval and the dots with the lines to make a second position of the hand, and also because a lot of my artwork involves, my personal artwork involves trying to figure in a way that the viewer can add a story to it. And actually a lot of my lessons in the studio do this as well, using an image and then letting my students kind of modify it to tell their story. And I think a closed fist can tell a lot of stories. It could be as simple as holding a cup of coffee and looking out the window, or it can also be a symbol of a lot more powerful things, of holding on to something, of anger, or, you know, lately of solidarity. So I'm going to show you how to use this same method and do a second position with this tutorial. So we're going to start out with our oval or bar of soap shape again. Okay. I'm drawing sideways just because a sideways fist just because it's a little bit easier for me with our setup here. I'm not drawing it as big as the other one, okay? Just because when you clench your fist, it appears like this shape is smaller. It's not, but you're kind of closing the space. So then what we're going to do, okay, is we need our dots. So we're going to add our dot for the thumb, and again, about a third, like a third of the way, you know, if you split this into thirds. So right here. Okay, then one for each of our fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so at this point we're going to do our lines a little bit differently. We're going to curve them along the side, so only one is going to curve along the side. And again, I might do this a little lighter if I were you. I'm doing it heavily so that you can see it in my tutorial. So then we're going to actually do one that comes across just like that. Okay, and the last one we're going to actually draw pretty close to the second one, and you'll see why. It'll make sense. Okay. Alright, so we're going to work on, we're going to leave the thumb alone for a minute, okay, because it's going to overlap. So we're going to work on the fingers first. Now, we're going to, because we're actually going to draw through, so from here we're going to draw through, okay. So I'm going to connect. Now, you notice these kind of curve down a little. These are going to curve just a little bit up. just like that. Alright, so then what we're going to do, we're going to draw from here to here, so we're not going to draw a separate, we're not seeing that digit, so we're going to draw over it. So you're going to do a kind of a longer oval or rounded rectangle shape. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. Okay, and then these we're going to really round off. See, just like that, because when your fist is closed, they appear to be smaller at the tips. They're not really, but it's just how it looks. Optical illusion. Okay, so because our knuckles kind of stick out a little bit, you kind of just want to round it at the top a little bit. So what we're going to do now, you want to grab your eraser and you want to, we'll leave this here and we'll leave these here, but we're going to clean up just a little bit of the inside of the fingers here. Okay? Just kind of getting rid of some of the visual noise that can kind of get confusing when you're drawing. Okay? So, you'll do a prettier job. Now, because when you hold your hand this way, your thumb comes across. We're going to come up to this point, and then we're going to come across. We had this point right here. We're going to come across kind of to that middle of that point. Okay? And we're going to fill out our thumb. So, up. So it's kind of like, again, kind of like a cone shape, and then down and curve. Okay, to that point right there. Now I'm going to get rid of my noise again. Okay. Now at this point we can kind of clean up these lines too. Just a little bit. Okay, so we've cleaned this up a little bit. Hopefully you took my advice and didn't draw as hard as I did. I'm drawing hard just so I can make sure everybody can really see my lines, that they're not too faint. So I'm sure yours is a lot nicer than mine. Mine's a little sloppy, but that's okay. So we're just going to finish this up by adding some details. So kind of, as I said in the previous tutorial, if you're adding the wrist in, you don't want it to just stick out straight from the side. You want to curve into it. So I'm kind of curving out and down. Okay. Adding the wrist bone. Just that little curve there. And again, out and down. Okay. We can get rid of some of this line here. You don't have to get rid of the whole thing, because that's sort of where the palm and the wrist meet. So you do kind of have a little bit of lines there. And because the fist is clenched, okay, you maybe have more lines. So we want to kind of deepen the lines here and here in the thumb. Okay, add some extra folds there. And you usually have a line, kind of a crease in the palm right there, like that. Okay. And again, we'll add just some little, they don't have to be deep, but little lines for the knuckles where they bend in. Okay. And we don't see as much of our nail here, but you still want to add kind of, so I'm adding kind of like upside down or sideways U shapes for our fingernails. but because our palms are closed, you don't see as much of it. Okay, kind of. And again, you're only seeing a portion of it on the thumb. Just like that. Okay. Now, if you want to get really fancy-dancy, and I know you do, we can always go a step further and add a little shading. Okay, so I'm switching out to a softer drawing pencil. So they come in different softness, levels of softness, excuse me, and the darker, or like the higher the level of softness, the darker the shadows you can get. But if you just are working with a number 2 pencil, that is completely fine. You just maybe want to shade a little darker. So what I'm doing is very lightly just kind of hatching around my fingers. Okay. So that you give the palm a little bit of shadow. And I'm doing slightly curved lines. Okay, I'm not just scribbling across, I'm kind of curving. Okay. Now you can use some drawing kits if you have one, has a fun little blending stump, but I almost always use my fingers for everything. See, so you can just kind of smudge in between there, get a little shadow going. Okay, just like that. Notice, see, if I shade the fingers, I'm curving my line because you're not flat, okay? It's a curved surface. So I'm going up and down, just like that. Alright. And you can add a crease here if you want. Okay. So, we have our hands here, our little quick and dirty hand tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this next tutorial in the series, and until we meet again, until we draw or paint, whether it's in real life or whether it's via internet, I hope you all stay safe, stay well, keep each other safe, and take care of each other.